podcast where people reach their goals and develop confidence one mind shift habit at a time. Let's join our host, certified coach Christina.
Hello, welcome to another Conversations with Coach episode. I'm your host, certified mindset confidence coach, Christina Calloway. And I serve athletes, parents, coaches, and organizations, helping them to identify the areas that may not be as confident as they need to be and giving them practical tools to help them with that. On this episode of Conversations with Coach, we are talking all things parents and social media. And you might be thinking, well, I don't have any kids living in the house. I don't know if this is going to apply to me. Stick around. It definitely will. If you do have kids, and especially if they are a part of athletics, you definitely want to tune into this episode because my guest is bringing all the information as it relates to what you need to know about how to navigate this fun thing, but sometimes it can be a little bit scary. Just want to give you some information about the guest. Her name is Christine Saintville. She is a wife, a homeschool mom of 3, trainer, and social media strategist and coach. She is known online as Moms in Charge. And she started her momsincharge.com, which is her blog, in 2012 because she wanted to empower moms to go after their goals and dreams without sacrificing them to motherhood. I'm sure some of you out there can identify with that. She is also the founder of The Social Scoop, where she creates winning social media strategies to grow her clients' audiences, influence, and income. Through the Social Mom Suite, she helps mompreneurs of color go from social media manager to agency CEO. She has worked with brands such as Disney, AT&T, Survivor Monkey, and African Ancestry, just to name a few. She has traveled to places such as the beautiful islands of Turks and Caicos, one of my favorite, with beaches resorts to write about events and travel. That is such a fun job. Who doesn't want that job? She has also been behind the scenes on movies such as Lady and the Tramp, live action on Disney Plus, and interviewed the stars of Black Panther. Oh, I cannot wait to talk to her about that. That is one of my favorite movies too. Most recently, U.S. News featured her in an article entitled How to Talk to Tweens About Being Responsible on Social Media. Now, if that just hasn't got you excited about tuning into this episode, I'm not sure what will. But I'm going to give you time to press your share button, to text a friend, tell them that they need to tune in. And if you are watching this on replay, you definitely want to copy it and share it with as many people as you know that would benefit. I want you to put some love in the chat and help me to welcome our guest, Christine Saintville. Hey, Christine.
Thank you, Christina. I'm so excited to be here. Hello, everyone.
Yay, I'm happy that you are here. I am so excited. As I was reading your bio, and I'd already read it before, but when I was reading, I got even more excited. So I was like, no, I get to ask her about some of this, all this neat stuff that she got to do. And as I was saying on your introduction, Turks and Caicos is one of my favorite places to go. My sister and I did prior to COVID, 2 years straight. That was where we went on our sister's trip. And the thing that I enjoyed most about that particular island that I had not experienced any place else was that 12 months after we came back, the locals remembered us. And I was like, how? They see hundreds of thousands of people. How could they remember us? But that was very unique for me to experience that. And then Black Panther. Okay, let's talk about all these opportunities. Tell me more.
Oh my goodness. So my Moms in Charge blog, which you mentioned, I started in 2012. And I really just, like you said, just wanted to use it as a way to empower other moms. And with that, became me having to figure out how to use social media to get more than like my mom and my sisters to read my blog.
Yeah.
So, it ended up turning into more of like more opportunities. So blog business was birthed out of that, where I was able to work with various brands like you mentioned, and one of them being Disney. And so I have had the amazing privilege of being flown out to LA multiple times to cover their red carpet movie premieres. And one of them was Black Panther, one of 25 bloggers who was able to go out there and be on that iconic in the room. Like, I mean, walking past it. I mean, it was just so many things I can say about it, but it was absolutely incredible.
Well, see, I'm the person that wants to know the details. I want to know so many more information. So what was it like seeing the stars that you have seen from afar, but you were like right there up on them?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I'm not one that generally gets starstruck. Like, and I've been to a lot of these types of events, and it's cool to see celebrities, but at the end of the day, they're always like us. But because of the meaning of Black Panther, what it meant, what it was doing, the movement that had been created, being there. And then Daniel Kaluuya, who was one of the main characters, is originally from Uganda. That's where my family's from. And when I saw him on the red carpet in traditional attire and just seeing everybody else come in, I mean, it was definitely an experience I will never, ever forget. I mean, it was a star-studded event for sure. I mean, we had great seating in the movie theaters. Usher walked past us to go to his seat. I mean, it was walk past Denzel. I mean, amazing. A lot of the the celebrities that we ran into, unfortunately, we had our phones taken away. So as soon as you get in the movie theater, they close your phones, they lock them up, because you were seeing it before the rest of the world.
Yeah.
So a lot of those celebrity moments where it's like, oh, like literally walk past Jamie Foxx, like as soon as I locked up my phone, and he was very nice. I mean, it was just amazing. So yeah, like everything that you can imagine it was. And the movie, to this day, as you know, is still incredible. And so, of course, we have the second one that's going to be coming soon in the fall. And so it's going to be emotional, but it was truly an amazing, amazing experience.
It will be. As a blog writer at an event such as that, do you, in addition to you viewing what it is, the subject matter, do you also get to speak directly with those who are involved in the project?
Yeah, so we actually, generally they always set up like interviews. So they have a press day. So we were right in the front row for the press with all of the stars, but then we also got to interview like in our blog group, several of the stars in the movie. So we did several different interviews with them and just were able to get a better understanding for their concepts for different things and what they were thinking when they decided on the costume designer and all of those things and how the film came together. So yeah, we definitely got to have a sit down with several of them. So it was pretty incredible.
That is so interesting, and it sounds so fun.
Yeah.
Did you get to talk with Chadwick?
So it's funny, he wasn't one of the ones that we interviewed, but we did like walk past him when we were going into the theater, and he waved and all of that. And I'm very much the type of person, like I know I have friends that like they don't care, they'll just get the picture. And for me, I'm just like I could sense he was like it was actually after the film. And he looked kind of tired. He was with, several of the cast members, and he waved and smiled. But I was like, he doesn't look like he just wants to kind of he probably would have stopped to say hi and take a picture. But he just like kind of waved and smiled. And so I was like, you know what, that's enough for me. Like, so, but he was definitely right there, arm's distance from us. So.
Oh my goodness. And to your point, him looking tired, now that we know he probably was, it had been a full day, and him being such a fighter with and battling the cancer that he had.
It made so much more sense. So I was glad that I didn't, kind of push that, even though I'm sure, like I said, he probably wouldn't have minded. But in that moment, it was like, he looks like he's ready to kind of like get out, but he was still smiling, even though you could tell like, okay, I'm ready to go.
Right, absolutely. Now, Moms in Charge, what made you decide to start this company?
So the funny thing is, I left corporate when I was pregnant with my last born, who you got to meet.
Yes.
And when I became a stay-at-home mom, I had 2 other kids, 3 under 3, and one of my outlets was Facebook groups with other moms, and a lot of the conversation in those groups was around the things that they wanted to do, but they had to wait for their kid to start school, or they had to wait for their kid to graduate, or they had like all of these things, and it was all centered around the kids, and they had to wait to do all of these things that they wanted to do. And my thought process then was, well, why can't you do both? And so literally that was what prompted me to start Moms in Charge. It was like, let's take charge of all aspects of your life, your self-care, your goals, your dreams, but be the example for your kids. Because literally, like my oldest, my son, was in preschool at that time. We're getting ready for preschool, and it was around that time you start having those conversations like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you know, you can be anything and do anything. And it was like, but am I doing anything and everything I want to do? And am I leading by example? And so that's really what prompted me to start it.
I love that. I shared with the audience that you did start that company in 2012, and now you also have a blog called Social Scoop. Did I get that right? Social Scoop Media?
Yeah, so Social Scoop is my social media agency that I started as a result of the blog. And it really just started, my chiropractor was my first client. She literally saw what I was doing with my blog and on social media and growing my community, and was just like, we need to get on social. We don't understand it. Can you help us? And so it literally became word of mouth, where people were asking, like, can I help manage their social media? Can I help them create strategy around their social media? And so the Social Scoop is literally that side of the business, where it's like, I'm working with clients, we're creating strategy, we're creating their content, we're posting their content, we're, you know, building their communities, and all of that. So that's where I get to do that side of the business. And then I still, you know, work with brands every now and again, under my Moms in Charge brand as well.
That is so good. I told you, audience, it wasn't just only going to be for parents. Christine has quite a bit on her resume, and she is there to help us all. And I am so grateful and thankful that we got to meet. And just to give a backstory quickly on that, because Christine mentioned it, how I got to meet one of her daughters. And I have, her daughter is a gymnast. And I got to meet, I've been following Brielle on Instagram and watching her and her progress, and her personality is huge, and that catches your attention when you're watching it. And her gymnastics is just so impressive. And they all just go together. Her personality, her gymnastics, it all just goes together. And I was super impressed by the fact that here this young person is that is so comfortable on social media. And I can hear some of you all saying, but aren't all of them? No, they all aren't. And as Christine was saying, she's also an ambassador and also a rep for some of the leotard companies. And that's a huge responsibility for someone her age. And she handles it perfectly. And now it all makes sense, because she's had her mom there educating her on it, and it comes across. So definitely that's how we got to know each other. And then so I was familiar with Brielle. I won't say that I knew her, because we have to be careful that people feel like they know people just because they follow them on social media. You don't know them. I was familiar with Brielle through her gymnastics and her Instagram account. Recently, as you all know, I did a workshop for Brown Girls Do Gymnastics, and it was held at Fisk University, which we all know is the first HBCU to have a gymnastics program. And at their conference, Brielle and her mother were there. Now, I did the parent workshop first. I did not recognize Christine in the room. And as soon as that afternoon came and I went to go and do the workshop with the gymnast, she was the first one. And I walked up to her and I was like, I follow you on Instagram. And she just smiled back at me. And so the workshop went on. And at the end, after it was over, I went to go get dinner. And she and her mom walked into the exact same place that I was getting dinner. And I shared with her, and we were exchanging about how good the conference was. And And so that's how Christine and I got to meet, and I'm really excited about that. Now, I mentioned, Christine, about Brielle being so comfortable on social media. And I know for some of the parents that are watching, or mentors or coaches, whoever are involved with kids, when it comes to social media, they're not really sure how to talk to the kids about social media. Let's help the audience with that.
Absolutely. So I love that you mentioned that she's so comfortable in front of the camera, but honestly, like with all my kids, especially the girls, my son is not really interested right now, but with the girls, because they wanted to do different things. My other daughter actually wanted to start a YouTube channel. And so it was like, okay, well, if you want to start it, you got to edit your own videos. And so she learned how to edit her own videos. And, for me, like I grew up super, super shy, like not being able to like voice what I really want to say. And so I knew that I don't want that. Like I want my kids to always be confident in what they say, if they're speaking in front of people or anything like that. And so, when I decided, again, with my background, I knew that starting pages for both of my girls, my other daughter's a kidpreneur. And so I was like, listen, like there's opportunities, not just for college recruiting, but I'm like, I know that there's ambassador opportunities. I know that there's brand opportunities. And so that's really why we started it. And so it's always been a conversation, even though I've always managed their pages and still do, I'll give Brielle the phone so she can reply to comments and things like that. But for me, I know that their friends are on social. I know that, they don't necessarily need the app. If they're on a browser, they can type in something and social media will pop up. So for me, it was important to have conversations early on so that they understood like, hey, this is how it works. And, make sure that we're talking to them, because if we're not, like somebody else is, or they're learning it from somebody else. Like I know for me, our parents, I mentioned, early on, like our parent, I'm, first generation American. My parents are, East African. And so like, there was no conversation about like anything really. And so for me, it was like, okay, we're having these conversations early on because I want them to be safe. Like I can't be there all the time, and I want to empower them to make good choices. And the only way to do that is to have those conversations early on and consistently. It doesn't end.
Definitely. To your point of introducing your girls to social media at a young age, just so that they will understand the responsibility that comes with it. It's not just this fun app. They're not just fun apps that you get on or put yourself on. However, when you do that, there comes a responsibility with that. And I know that the article that you did recently for USA News, it talked about that. It talked about how to talk to tweens about being responsible on social media. And just for the audience, so that we're clear on the language that we're using, a teenager is 13 up to 19. And then tweens are defined as the age group between 8 to 12. And for those two groups, the tweens and the teens, they are on social media daily. And if you have one living in your house, or if you are related to one of those in those age groups, you know that that is true. 2 years ago, the pandemic happened and we were all forced inside. And the kids were forced inside. They were forced inside for schooling. And with that came increased screen time. Yeah. And that's huge, because to your point, there's so many good things that are out there. And unfortunately, there's that little bit of the not so good things that tends to get focused on. And so I do want us to talk about during the pandemic, how that impacted, and just kind of share a little bit about what the responsibility is and talking to these age groups that you did in that article.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, like everything was happening, like you said, online. People who said, I don't want to do nothing with Instagram. I don't want to be on, I hate social. And then it's like, okay, well, I guess like this is how I'm able to see people, talk to people, see what's going on in the world, And so we did obviously have more screen time and all of those things. And, it was actually during that time that we also had to have like all of our kids, we sat them down and we watched a documentary around social media. And, because course, my kids don't realize what I do. Like, I know how to use social. I know when things come up. And so, somebody, I'm not going to say who, decided they were going to try to create a private or secret account. And so what some parents may not know, if you've given access to, so we have the parent sharing app, right? So anytime our kids try to download the app, both my husband and I get an alert. And so we have to approve or decline it. So
Nice.
Once you've approved it, but once you've approved it once, even if you delete it from the phone or the device, they don't have to reapprove. You don't have to reapprove it. So they can always download it on their own. And so, like I said, I've always managed their accounts, and so there would be times where like, okay, we're going to download it on your device. If I was doing something on my phone, I was like, let me download it on your device so that you guys can record your video that you need to record, and then we'll just see it. Well, decided she's going to make an account, and then I was like, oh, this is not what we're doing. And so we ended up finding a documentary that talked about, because when you hear it from your parents, it's like, y'all don't really know what you're talking about, you're not cool, nothing we say, we don't understand. So we had to watch a documentary. We pulled it up on YouTube. It's on YouTube if you just search for Bark documentary, and really showcased how easy it is for pedophiles and people like that and human trafficking to start on social. And it walks you through the process of, it was, I think, a 30-year-old woman that they literally created a profile. They showed the process of transitioning her to a 12-year-old.
Oh, wow.
With Photoshop and editing and all these things.
Oh, wow.
And created an Instagram profile for her. And they showed like how easy it was. And they actually were able to arrest someone that tried to traffic her because they literally showcased the whole thing. And so we're like, listen, like, it can be great opportunities and great fun and all these other things, but there's also this other side that can be dangerous if you don't know what to look for, if you're not understanding that every profile that you see is not who they actually are sometimes. And so really being able to differentiate that and have those conversations like, no, like, we need y'all to sit down and watch this because this can be serious. Like, we're not just telling you this, for our health or because we're trying to be mean, but we want you to be responsible and we want you to make smart decisions.
Thank you for sharing that resource, that documentary that's available on YouTube. If you all did not catch it, you want to go into YouTube, search Bark documentary, and you'll be able to come up with it. A question that I have, I know that discussion came about after there was the attempt, or actually the setting up of the parent not known account is what we'll call it. And that opened the door for you to be able to say, hey, let me share a little bit more about why we have parameters. For anyone else, how effective do you think it would be to show that documentary as they are introducing or allowing their teens and tweens to have social media accounts?
Oh, absolutely. Very important. And it's funny because I had actually watched the documentary before. I always like to watch stuff first to figure out, like, is it age appropriate? Like, and so I had already watched it before. And, after that happened, like, we made, my other daughter, she had to create a contract. Like, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're not going to do. Like, I'm going to be, responsible. I'm going to make sure that all of those things. So I think even for parents who are not in that, in that predicament, like, I think it's being proactive, right? And making sure that you have those conversations up front, and it wouldn't hurt to just create your own mutual contract. Like, if I'm allowing you to create, your social media accounts, then it's a mutual contract between the two of us. I know that you're going to be responsible. I know that you won't block me, and I'll be able to see whatever you post. So I have your password, all of those things. But being able, I think what a lot of parents do is they try to like do the secret thing, like, oh, I'm gonna just watch, but they'll try to be sneaky. So rather than doing that, try to build that trust early on and say, like, hey, this is, I want to make sure that we trust each other. So these are the parameters, and this is what I expect from you, and this is what you can expect from me in return. But it needs to be, they're going to be on social. Like, this is the age that they're growing up in. And so,
Absolutely.
The only thing is to just have those conversations early and just check in, often, and just have those, have those parameters in place.
I like the idea of contracts, and because it teaches them several life skills. Number one, the power of negotiating and when things are non-negotiable, as well as building character and integrity. And I know that I've heard some parents say when it comes to social media, well, their friends are doing it. I don't want to be that parent that's keeping their child from doing whatever it is that they think. And speak to those individuals who may have that train of thought that they're feeling pressured into allowing their children to get these social media accounts, and how can they create a safe place for their kids to talk to them no matter what, how difficult it might be?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I think, there are parents in that predicament. I think if you just maybe start small. So like, again, for me, I've always managed the girls' accounts. They've never had it on their own phones. If they're like for me, it's all, we homeschool. So responding to messages, that's learning English. You're learning like, oh, is that a sentence? Like we're going to, so I have them do those things, but I give them my phone, right? So they don't have complete control. So if you maybe even start somewhere, a middle ground like that, where it's like, okay, you have it on your phone. And so my girls know if they want to create a TikTok, they got to ask me. So I can sign into the account, I can pull it up, and they can create their videos, but it's, not all access all the time. And, even after that, it was like, listen, and we tell our kids all the time, even if you think you're going to get in trouble, even if you think something's going to happen, like we'd rather you come to us, talk to us, so we can help you solve the problem. We can work through it together, because there's nothing that is too great, too big that we would not want to work with you together. We'd rather you do that than you try to figure it out and then it blows out of proportion. So really just making sure that they know, like, no matter what, like, come to us. If you're not sure, if you think you're going to get in trouble, like, really, what's the worst that could happen? You get grounded. Like, okay, you get your devices taken away. Like, there's really, it's not going to be as bad as you think it's going to be. And it's actually going to be worse, probably, if you don't come and talk to us and then something happens, And so for us, it's always that safety first thing, and making sure they know that at the end of the day, their health, their safety, all of that is top priority.
Absolutely. I like the fact that you encourage them to say, hey, let's tie this into your learning, your schoolwork. How can this be applicable? So carrying it across, not just it being a fun activity for them to do. It's also, in addition to it being fun, it's a great way to share with others. It's a great way to get your message across. And then also creating that environment about the responsibility that comes with it. Now, you can help me with something, because I was under the impression that you needed to be a certain age before you could create an account. Is that not the case anymore?
I mean, that is the case. It's always been the case. It's still the case. However, they just ask for a birthday. So anybody can go in and create a birthday that, coincides with what the legal age is for social. I mean, it's actually surprising, because when I log into both of my girls' accounts, there are a lot of their peers that I could tell are running their own accounts. And I mean, I've had Brielle's account, I think I started when she just started gymnastics, so since 2018. So she was 8 going on 9 when I started her account. And I mean, they're literally children on social. I mean, there was one account that literally was DMing me on my Moms in Charge page, and because I guess I was posting like stuff around the events that I was doing, and was like, oh, I want to meet you. And I could tell that it was a little kid behind it. And I was like, you're so lucky that like it's someone like me who's getting this message. And I try to like respond like, listen, like you should not be on this app, but everybody's not going to do that. So yeah, it's literally just as simple as changing the birthday. But I can tell there's several under 13 accounts that are being run, managed on their own. I can just tell by how they, write, how they interact, the posts that they put up. And it's, scary. But then again, it's like, if you have these conversations early on with your kids and build that initial trust and, hey, this is how we're going to do it, and give parameters, like, I think that that's where it really should be starting.
Mm-hmm. That is scary because, as you were mentioning when we first started the conversation, you mentioned about the dangers, and the documentary points it out as well, of the people who don't have good intentions, how they're using these social media accounts and the different apps to lure kids for sex trafficking, and they themselves have also been identified as sexual predators. And so for the parent who is saying, well, you have time, you're homeschooling yours, I work outside of the home, I've got this, I've got that, I don't have time to do all of that, what's your response?
So I think it's whatever time you want to put it. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. That's the great thing. I mean, it can be something where you decide together, like, once a week on the weekends, whatever day works best for you, we'll put something together. If you want to post, or if you want to, see what your friends are doing, then you give them kind of a limit. But, if it's someone that's trying to build an account, like say for recruiting purposes or things like that, then you have to be a little bit more intentional and say, hey, like, we're going to make sure, for example, if you have an athlete in the gym or whatever, you just make sure that they're taking photos and videos, but then you don't have to post them right away, right? So now you have just a bunch of photos and videos that when you have time, you post. But if you're doing like trying to actively get recruited, then that's when I would say, like, you definitely want to make time to just post, 2 times a week or something like that, where it's convenient for both of you. And also put the responsibility on your child as well, especially if they're at that age. They're probably a little bit older. They can be more responsible, so they can be responsible for making sure that they get the content, to be able to post. But yeah, I think it just depends on what the end goal is and what the objective is for them having these accounts. And for me, the end goal was, hey, I know that there's ambassador opportunities, there's brand sponsorship opportunities. Both of my girls have been paid to create content several times. So, for me, that was the end goal, right? So now, I mean, she won't be going to college anytime soon, but, we at least have content, and we have a page that's, being updated, that when it becomes that time, now we just have, a page and a journey that has been documented.
That's excellent. So you're mentioning these opportunities that your daughters are having. What about the parent that's asking, how many accounts should my child have?
Honestly, I say just one, but for some kids, they prefer TikTok, right? A lot of them prefer TikTok. I will say that TikTok gives me a lot more pause, because there's not as many parameters and safety, and you open the app, you don't know what you're going to see, even if you're following certain accounts. Right. So for me, that one is a lot less manageable in terms of what you allow them to see and not see. So that's why, like, when I literally hand the girls a phone with their account already up, and they do the videos. So I think it kind of depends, but I think between TikTok and Instagram, those are the ones that they're doing the most. If it's for recruiting purposes, I would say Instagram, because that's where most of the coaches, recruiters and things like that are looking at Instagram pages. But definitely it wouldn't hurt. And if you do decide to do both, the great thing is you can repurpose content. Just share the same videos on both accounts, and there's different audiences that will see them, and so it's a win-win.
That's very good, and I hope the listeners are taking note of that when it comes to account. And even this isn't just for kids, but this is for individuals as well. Because I know for me, being an entrepreneur, I struggled and went through, well, how many accounts should I have, and which are the right accounts? And you go back and forth with that. And you brought up a very good point. There being different audiences on all of them. You're not going to have the same type of audience on Facebook that you're going to have on Instagram, that you're going to have on Snapchat, that you're going to have on TikTok. And also the crowd that likes YouTube. It probably, out of all of them, is a good one to pull all of those different groups together, because a lot of people use it for information that finding, and maybe to a fault, they rely heavily on whatever's on YouTube or social media in general. And I just want to kind of pause right here and say, just because it's on social media or on YouTube does not mean that you have all of the facts and the truth about whatever it is you are researching. I know recently Pinterest has come into the game of apps that a lot of people may be missing that for if they're, to your point, if your daughter or your child is being a brand or they are ambassador, some parents may be excluding that altogether, but I do know for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's a big one that is really being missed. What would you say about that?
Oh my gosh, Pinterest is a gold mine when you learn how to use it. I think especially for entrepreneurs, if you can create some great pins and just share content on there. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I was actually active on Pinterest, but my views and traffic to my website are still going even without me being active. Pinterest is it has the longest lifespan when it comes to social media. So whereas a tweet you send out might last, the lifespan is 15 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. Instagram is a couple of days or something like that. Facebook is maybe a few more days. So Pinterest, literally the lifespan is months. I can't remember the last time I looked at it. So literally what that means in, layman's terms, what that means is that you pin something once, if it's great content, people are going to continue to see it. It's going to go by, continue to share it, pin it.
Yes.
I mean, and if you're trying to get traffic back to your website, and if you can run ads to that too, gold mine.
Gold mine. Listen, we could talk about so many topics as it relates to social media, and that's okay. I'll just have to have you to come back to talk about those, but I want to stay focused on the parents and social media part. Previously, you mentioned about building out social media for your athletes. And for this part, as a coach, I know the seriousness in being very mindful of the accounts, and not just the ones that you set up for your athletes, but also that you personally may have. And I know at the conference you did a workshop on athletes and parents on social media and the impact. I want you to share a little bit of that with the audience.
Yeah, so I think, for sure, as far as the impact, I think that it can be great, right? There's a lot of negativity around there as well, but it can definitely be great. I've seen, athletes who weren't using, a traditional recruiting service, but because they kept their Instagram up to date, they showed videos, they tagged, schools that they were interested in, they were discovered that way, right?
Wow.
There's so many opportunities, like I said before, for me, I mean, as you know, gymnastics is not cheap. Leotards, all of these things add up. And so, being able to find things even outside of the sport that the kids enjoy, and if they're doing it all the time, that may be a great opportunity to connect with the brands and say, hey, we use this thing all the time. Would love to, create some content, see how we can, collaborate, things like that. So I definitely feel like there's so much, opportunity, for parents, to be able to really create something, alongside their athletes that will last beyond, just them getting recruited, but really it shows the journey. And what I will say for a lot of the parents, and I mentioned this in the workshop, is don't be afraid to, and this is something you would want to share with your athlete, don't be afraid to show the mishaps, the accidents, the falls, the failures, right? Because that's the thing that people connect to the most. And I'll tell you, it's so funny. I mean, we've always done that since I've had Brielle's account, but there was, I think it was regionals, and she actually fell for the first time on her floor routine. She fell on bars. And so literally I put together a 30-second clip of the falls, and then a clip from each event. And that one video, and I think I used one of Kevin Hart's audio or something about getting back
inspirational.
Up.
Yep.
And so that one video was I think it has almost 700,000 views.
Whoa.
People just sharing, oh my gosh, she got back, she didn't stop, way to go, keep going. But people need to see that side too.
Yes.
Perfect. I'm hitting my routines, I'm doing this, and the struggles, she struggled with mental blocks. We've shared that, So I think just showing the well-rounded athlete is also important when it comes to building out your channels, because that's what coaches also like to see when they're recruiting.
And as a coach, I can definitely tell you that is true. Coaches, when they see that well-rounded individual, it tells them a lot. It tells them how they respond to adversity. It tells them how they might be in terms of coaching them back from that. And that is the realness. And to your point of it being 700,000 views, just people in general connect to seeing other people having their shared experience. And it's even more impressive when it's a child and they are still able to persevere and bounce back from it. And so just showing, not just creating, if you've got an athlete and you're setting up social media, you are doing a disservice to that athlete if you only put their wins and their triumphs. You are setting a very skewed view for the potential coaches to watch, and that's going to probably put up a question mark in their minds. And for any parent who is thinking, oh, well, I have an athlete, but she's not interested in doing it, or he's not interested in doing it in college, it's not just for those. I will tell you, being on the club level, when an athlete that's competitive is interested in my gym, the first thing I'm going to do is go on social media and see what footprint is out there for the athlete as well as the parent. If you've got an account and you are being controversial or it goes against what maybe their core values are, even on the club level, the travel team level, your child is going to have a difficult time maybe getting on those teams because of everybody judges things. You get that first time to make that impression. And if they get a negative impression from the social media, it's not good. So there's definitely an impact when it comes to, yes, for the athletes, but also for the parents and how they are on social media. And I can hear some of you saying, well, that's not fair. It shouldn't be that way. I don't think that it boils down to what's fair. I think it's the accessibility. And as to Christine's point, social media gives us all a window view into the lives of others. And just remember that. And in the back of your mind, ask the question, what are they looking at? Is this something that I want them to see? Because it can't be with that mindset of, well, what goes on in my house stays in my house. Not when you're on social media and not when you're plastered it all over social media. You have just now invited the entire world into your home to see the way that you think, the way that you react. And here's a little secret that you just learned here on Conversations with the Coach. Coaches pay attention to your comments on other people's feeds. It does show up. So you definitely want to mind it. There's a huge responsibility when it comes to social media. And I know that's difficult for us to maybe wrap our minds around because it's so convenient. It's just a matter of picking up your phone and pressing the app that you want to now virtually enter into. So you kind of have to pause for the cause and say, hold on, how am I doing this? How am I putting this out for my child? And the kids are getting younger and younger. I know that I saw maybe she was 18 months old, and at her parents' house, they have the refrigerator that it's kind of like a giant iPad, and she pulled up a little step stool, and she hit the little buttons, and before you knew it, the cartoon of her choice was on that refrigerator. So they're learning these skills at a very early age, because think about it. Most parents, if their child is upset, the first thing that they do is they hand their child that phone, and the kids, it's easy to press it. So even thinking beyond or earlier than 8 years old, think about how much screen time you're allowing that child to have. And an interesting thing that you all may or may not know about Steve Jobs and what is Microsoft's Bill Gates.
Yes. Oh my God.
I don't know why we just had a moment there, but there was a moment. But both of them said that their kids did not have access to computers, and they are the thing. So there's something to that being said. Christine, I have
I love
appreciated
that.
you. I appreciate you so, so much. And like I said, we can go on, and I'm definitely going to have you to come back and talk more about social media. But I do want those of you all who are, if you find yourself in the space of being a parent with a child, a mentor, a teacher, a coach, that you're responsible with the kids, take this information, go to YouTube, pull up that documentary, listen to it, and have these conversations, because we can't talk too much to them about their safety on something that is so accessible to them. And also, you're going to be able to reach out to Christine. For you entrepreneurs, I hope you did not miss the point where she's saying that she helps entrepreneurs to find their place and space in the social media world. And I can tell you, as an entrepreneur, it gets overwhelming. And I wish so desperately, can I just hand this off to someone else, tell them my vision, and let them run with it? Christine's like, yes, that's who I am. That's me. Get in touch with me. So if you are just starting out your business and you really don't know where to go, which social media is going to be best for you, or you've been an established business for a really long time and you are so apprehensive about going into the social media world, you're not going to have to do it alone. Here's how you can get in touch with Christine. She's on Facebook and Instagram. She's made it easy for you to remember, at Moms in, the letter N, Charge. You can also connect with her on her professional account, which is LinkedIn, and that's at Christine Saintville. That one's a little bit different. Since I mentioned LinkedIn, I just want people who have this misconception that LinkedIn is just for resume building or getting a job. If you are an entrepreneur, you are missing out in this platform. And I'm telling you, you better get in on ground level, because pretty soon everybody's going to pick up that and it's going to get even more busy. But times have changed, and LinkedIn is not just pigeonholed into that come look for a job type of thing. I'm on it and I absolutely love it. And I get a lot of engagement from people who are on LinkedIn. So don't poo-poo away LinkedIn, because it's there for you.
Yes, they've made so many great updates. So
oh my gosh, yes. Sometimes for me it's overwhelming, because I like that kind of stuff and I have to kind of like look at the clock like, girl, you've been on this way too long, get off. Here's Christine's websites that she mentioned earlier. She's at momsincharge.com and socialscoopmedia.com. Definitely go over there and check her out. Also, schedule a call with her and talk with her, whether you want to talk with her about how to talk to your kids on social media, or if you are an entrepreneur and you're like, hey, I just listened to your conversations with Coach and I am very interested. There's more I need to learn. I need to know where to start. Now, there's this one thing that I do with all my guests, Christine, before I let them leave. Okay. And it's part of my final thoughts. And you know me, being the mindset coach, it's going to center around that, right? So what is the one mindset shift that you would like to leave with the audience as it relates to social media?
Ooh, so great. So I think, because I've talked to, especially at the last conference, there were so many moms who were saying like, oh, they've been begging for me to start them an account and I just can't. I think the mindset shift is looking at the good and the better opportunities that there can be, and also thinking about it as a way to build a connection with your tween or teen, because you get to collaborate, you get to talk about that thing. So shifting that mindset to something you can't stand, don't want any part of, to something that can build a closer relationship with your athlete, because guess what? That's something that interests them. So figure out how you can make that shift to say, okay, I'm not interested, but my child is, so I'm going to get through this thing. I'm going to get over it and I'm going to like make it work.
Right. Exactly. Well, there you all have it. This has been a great episode, and you're all probably looking like, Coach Christina never goes this long, but I do when the conversation is rich. And as you all can tell, we could keep talking, but we're going to be mindful of everybody's time. And Christine, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge and your expertise and all about the fun adventures that you've been on so far with this. It's given me a different perspective on social media, and it's actually piqued my curiosity in some areas, and we'll talk offline about that. But thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It was truly a pleasure, and I always will look forward to the next time.
All right. I'm going to say goodbye to my audience, and I'll be right with you. And there you have it. Whew, that was a lot, wasn't it? But it was good. I'm making mental notes because I can't type while I'm doing these things, but I'll be watching this one on replay so that I can learn some more from it. You all know where to find me. Thank you so much for following me and for tuning in each week. If you happen to not be following any of my other social medias, I invite you to join me, follow me. And specifically on YouTube, I am definitely trying to grow that channel, so you can help me out a lot by subscribing to my channel. As I mentioned, I am a mindset coach, and if you have an athlete who might be struggling with a performance block or just needing a little bit more confidence, or you yourself are like, yep, there's an area of my life that I definitely would like to ramp up my confidence and shift my mindset on some things. Well, this is where you can go and schedule that free clarity call with me, and we'll just talk about what your options are out there. I appreciate you again. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you here same time, same place next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Coach. Please be sure to follow Coach Christina on all of her social media platforms. And remember, life is only as good as your mindset.